Hey church, and welcome to this week's small group. Now you remember on Sunday we asked the question, how do we change the parts of our lives that we don't like? And we came to the conclusion that true faith is letting Jesus change us from the inside out. So let's start our small group with 3 fun questions. Name something that most Christians say that they want to change about themselves. If you could wave a magic wand and change something about your own life, what would it be? And what is the main obstacle keeping you from making that change? Oftentimes people want to lose weight, they want to stop cursing or stop some other bad habit, or they want to be able to make more money or study the Bible more, whatever that is. What I'm hoping that you will see in this lesson is that more often than not, the biggest obstacle is ourselves. And so today, let's explore how we can overcome the obstacle of ourselves so that we can start making those changes in our lives. I want you to start out by reading James chapter 3, verses 1 through 2. What do these 2 verses have in common, and what is James trying to say? Is anyone that you know perfect? And according to verse 2, what is keeping us from perfection? James is making a statement in the first part of this chapter about the power of our words. He gets deeper into this thought in the next few verses. So let's read verses 3 through 6. James gives us 3 comparisons to show the power of the tongue. Which one speaks to you and why? And how can what we say corrupt us and set the whole course of our life on fire? I want you to see that the way that we talk sets the course for our entire day. I mean, if we start out the day by saying that we're in a bad mood, chances are we're going to have a bad day. If we always say that we can't, or we always come up with a reason why we're never going to be able to, or if we're the kind of person that even if we have something positive to say, it's always followed by, but, man, those things are going to hold us back. James also says that the tongue is set on fire by hell. Did you see that? Our tongues are set on fire by hell. What does he mean by that? Well, understand that hell is the absence of God. It is the only place where God does not have any of his existence. And the problem with our tongues is most of the time we leave God out of the equation when we're talking. Next, I want you to read verses 7 through 12. Why do you think it is more difficult to tame our own tongue than to tame a wild beast? And why is this such an important part of our lives to work on? This last Sunday, we studied how Jesus says that what we say is tied to our hearts. What we say is an indication of what's going on deeper inside. So what is the solution? Well, James begins to hint at that in verses 13 through 16. So where does a good life and good deeds come from, according to James? And what is an example of how someone might boast about bitter envy or selfish ambition? Or how might someone deny the truth of bitter envy or selfish ambition? Notice that James encourages us to start with humility. From humility flows good deeds, and from good deeds flows a good life. And examples of boasting about bitter envy or selfish ambition that I thought of were things like gossip, or putting others down to lift ourselves up, telling others how you won an argument. So I told her, blah, 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 blah. We might shock ourselves how much we participated in this kind of talk if we started keeping track. Next, I want you to read James chapter 3, verses 17 through 18. What are some examples of things that we might say that fit the criteria of wisdom that comes from heaven? And you're going to notice there's a bunch of criteria. What are some things that we might say that fit those criteria? And does being a peacemaker mean only saying things that make others happy? Why or why not? I need to be clear. Sometimes being a peacemaker is saying things that other people don't want to hear. I've personally known pastors and leaders who were afraid to upset people, which just made the situation worse. So when we find ourselves in a situation where we have to say something that other people don't want to hear, our responsibility is that we need to check our hearts and make sure that we're doing it from a good place. And if we're not, then we need to keep our mouths shut. How might changing what you say help you make that change that you wanted to make in your life with a magic wand? And finally, I want you to close in prayer as a small group, asking Jesus to help make some of those changes in your life. Because at the end of the day, true faith is letting Jesus change us from the inside out. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Sunday.